right, we are now multiplying complex numbers. Our master learning objective is I can add and subtract complex numbers by applying the properties of real and imaginary numbers. The biggest thing to remember is that I squared equals -1. Right, we just looked at that in A1, we looked at it in our A3 with our powers, so we have to remember that I squared equals -1. Other than the one little piece that we have to use that I squared with, multiplying complex numbers is exactly the same as when we were doing multiplying with polynomials in KC2. So looking at number 1, I have -4 times 7, which is 28, and I times I is I squared. So the one thing is this I squared is going to get replaced by -1. You must use parentheses to replace I squared with -1. 28 times -1 is -28. If you don't use parentheses, most students put, oh, it's 28 and then -1, and 28 minus 1 is 27. And that is incorrect. So use parentheses. Don't be lazy. All right, looking at number 2. When I just have one thing on the outside, I'm distributing. So I have 4i times 1 is 4i. 4i times 6i, well, 4 times 6 is 24. I times I is I squared. Same thing, I have that fabulous I squared here. So I have 4i plus 24, and that I squared turns into -1. So now I have 4i, well, 24 times -1 is -24. And I'm just going to arrange these because our real part goes first. So -24, positive 4i. Okay? Your I should always go last. All right, let's look at number 3. We have 3 minus 2i times 5 plus 3i. Now we're going to do the same thing we did last time when we had 2. On binomials, we are going to use our lovely boxes. So 5 times 3 is 15. 5 times -2 is -10i. 3 times 3 is 9i. 3 times -2 is -6. And I times I is I squared. So I have 15. I'm going to combine these two. -10 plus 9 is -1i. Now that I squared, we must replace with -1. So we now have 15 minus 1i. -6 times -1 is positive 6. And hey, look, I can combine these now. 21 minus 1i. You could also just put minus I there. You do not need the 1. Okay. So, starting here is where it's different. Up until there, it's exactly what we did last unit, right? So we should already have a good start on this. We should. All right, let's look at our next example. 4 plus 5i times 4 minus 5i. We have 4 and plus 5i, and 4 and minus 5i. 4 times 4 is 16. 4 times 5 is 20. There is an I. -5 times 4 is -20. There is an I. -5 times 5 is -25. I times I is I squared. So we have 16. If I combine 20i and -20i, well, 20 and -20 make 0i. And then I have minus 25I squared. So I don't even need to have that 0I around anymore, okay? So I just have 16 plus, nope, minus, sorry. Let me just start again. 16 minus 25, and just like before, I squared is actually negative 1. So that means I have 16 and negative 25 times negative 1 is plus 25. And 16 plus 25 is 41. So the I goes away completely there. Keep clicking on that. Okay, looking at our next thing. Same type of problem. 6 plus 2I times 7 minus 3I. I feel like we're giving those problems more room. That's okay. 6, 2I, 7, negative 3I. 7 times 6 is 42. 7 times 2 is 14I. Negative 3 times 6 is negative 18I. Negative 3 times 2 is negative 6. I times I is I squared. 42. We're combining those. Negative 18 plus 14 is negative 4. This I squared becomes negative 1. So now I have 42 minus 4I plus 6. 42 and 6 can combine to 48 minus 4I. Next problem, same type of thing. 2 minus 8I, 5 minus 2I. 5 times 2 is 10. 5 times negative 8I, well the 5 times negative 8 is negative 40. And we just bring down the I. Negative 2 times 2 is negative 4. This one has an I. Negative 2 times negative 8 is positive 16. And I times I is I squared. So now I have 10, and then I have minus 40 and minus 4, which gives me minus 44I, and then plus 16I squared. We need to change that I squared, so we get 10 minus 44I plus 16. That I squared becomes negative 1. So I have 10 minus 44I minus 16. 10 minus 16 becomes negative 6 minus 44I. All right, we just have 2 more problems on the next page with our powers. All right, again, we did look at these in KC2 as well. So we have 3 minus 2I squared. Remember, 3 minus 2I squared is the same as 3 minus 2I times 3 minus 2I. So that means I have 3 and minus 2I and 3 and minus 2I. Well, 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times negative 2I is negative 6I. Negative 2I times 3 is the same thing. Negative 2 times negative 2 is 4. I times I is I squared. Right? So again, these problems really are the same. So we have 9. Combining these is negative 12I plus 4I squared. So we have 9 minus 12I plus 4, and then our I squared becomes negative 1. So I have 9 minus 12i minus 4. I can combine 9 and minus 4, which is 5 minus 12i. Okay, so no different here. Let's just look at our last one, 5 plus 4i squared. So I have 5 plus 4i times 5 plus 4i. Five times 5 is 25. 5 times 4 is 20. Bring that I down. 4 times 5 is 20. Bring that I down. 4 times 4 is 16. I squared. So then we have 25. 20i and 20i is 40i. Plus 16i squared. Again, that I squared becomes negative 1. So we have 25 plus 40i minus 16. I can combine 25 and minus 16, which becomes 9 plus 40i. This is an I. That was a little bit long of a tail there. All right, and that is it. Go ahead, work on your activity.